What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the collegefootballdawgs.com National Championship preview brought to you by College Football Dawgs Podcast Network and, again, collegefootballdawgs.com. Tonight, we will go over the game that will be happening Monday night, giving you a couple days to take this in and digest it. And we will be bringing in College Football Dawgs writers, editors, people who talk to the SIDs at these schools, a lot of people who have some great insight into this one and what we can expect to see between these two teams. We expect a really good matchup. I know a lot of people are excited to see what could go down to this. We also have some FWAA writers. For those that don't know, that is the Football Writers Association of America. So these guys put the time and effort in the background to give you the knowledge that you need when we have matchups like this. So without further ado, let's bring some of these guys in here. So we'll start off with TJ. Let me get out of this thing here. Oh, we're going to bring them all in at the same time because I don't know what I'm doing here. Yes, let's bring in Mr. TJ Chapman, Mr. Dominick Ambrose, Mike Germanese, Matt Gerard, and Rodney Potts all joining us. We may have one more if Buckeye Steve decides to join the broadcast. But first, I want to give you a little intro about who these guys are. So, TJ, tell the people what you do here at College Football Dawgs.
My exact title is Director of Intercollegiate Affairs, which means I interact with the SIDs. I apply for credentials for the writers. I get the information that's funneled to me from the SIDs to our writers, to our podcasters, so that they can do their job and report on the information that they have, previews for games, recaps after games, breaking news type stories, anything like that. I do that kind of stuff. I do some writing. I do some editing. Haven't done a whole lot of editing recently, but I do love to go and cover games. I've been to a few games, including the Army-Navy game, which to me was top-notch. I mean, that was like top of my list. That's incredible. I highly recommend if anybody can do that, but that's just a little bit of what I do here for College Football Dawgs.
Absolutely. He is the man. I mean, keeps us organized. And all these guys will know. And Matt's a part of that as well on the editorial side. We'll get to him in just a second. Next, we'll go over to Mr. Dominick Ambrose.
Yeah, how's it going? I cover the ACC conference for College Football Dawgs, mostly with writing, but I do appear on the occasional podcast and help cover the NFL draft for College Football Dawgs as well.
Yeah, what was the place you were down in Dallas here recently as well? Tell people about that.
The College Gridiron Showcase. It's was a scouting internship I was invited to, and I got to interact with quite a number of players. I want to say they had about 200 players there. Got to interact with scouts, learn what they're looking for, and help out with everything from taking measurements to getting the players to meet with the scouts and get interviewed by the scouts.
Yeah. Phenomenal stuff.
Probably not the top tier guys, but still guys that'll make 53-man rosters.
Yeah, absolutely. Some depth guys that people don't know maybe as well. But like you said, there was a couple guys who opened some eyes down there. So can't wait to see and hear more of that. Mike, you're up next, my man.
First, everybody, how are we doing tonight? I'm Mike. I write for College Football Dawgs, covering most of the Big Ten and having to cover Ohio State once in a while, unfortunately. But it's what we have to do sometimes, even though I don't like the school. Mm-hmm. But that's about it. Just writing for his College Football Dawgs for the past 2 years.
Nice. And he's been doing a great job. Couple places that he's been writing for and keeping us up to date on things across the board. And he's been great addition as we've gone through this college football playoff. Another great addition is head editor, lead editor. I guess technically, if I'm getting my grammatical stuff correct, Matt will jump on me later if that's not happening, because that's what he's good at, folks. So Matt, if you tell the people a little bit more about yourself. Oh, we don't have your audio, Matt. We'll jump over to Rodney. We'll give you just a second. Rodney, tell the fine people what you've been doing for us this season.
Rodney Potts. I write for College Football Dawgs starting this year. Mainly cover Ohio State, hop on some other Big Ten teams, hit Army a little bit this year, but mainly stick with the Buckeyes and get into them as much as I can.
Absolutely. Does a great job with that. More recently that you and I have interacted, and enjoy the experience and what you've had to offer with the insight that you and Buckeye Steve specifically do up there for Ohio State. So great stuff. Matt, let's try you again here now. Gotcha. Not yet.
Mhm.
Try jumping out and back in. Okay.
Dom, do you mind if I say something real fast?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I completely forgot to mention this before. As far as like with the SIDs are concerned, I owe a huge thank you to the Ohio State SID, Jerry Emig. A huge thank you to Katie Lonergan and Claire Cunningham from Notre Dame. They've supplied a truckload of information all season long. And with the two teams being left, their coverage has been top notch as far as getting the information out to us. So they allow us to do our jobs with what they send to me, and I funnel to everybody else. So just a huge thank you to them.
Absolutely. And they are two among many schools who have been very good to us and helped us get to the point we are now, where we're covering these games more continuously and a little more easily because of the interactions and the background work you've put in, and some others being there in person in a couple of these games and conference media days before the season started and whatnot. So let's give Matt another try here. So Matt, give us a try on that mic now.
Check 1, 2.
Yeah.
Can you hear me
all right.
now?
We got you.
All right.
So
Sorry about
now
that.
we're ready for your intro.
Sorry about that. Well, thanks for having me back. Fresh off appearance at the Cotton Bowl last week to watch Ohio State and Texas battle it out to get to the national championship game. But normally, my normal duties are keeping writers in line and grammatically correct and taking care of all the editorial needs of College Football Dawgs. I get to read all of our writers on a regular basis, and they all do a wonderful job, especially covering the College Football or College Football Playoff, and then now the national championship with everybody pitching in. It's been a lot of fun collaborating and covering the whole CFP.
Absolutely, it has been, and thanks to you guys for the hard work in the background. Let me see if I can do this smoothly here as I add this up to. I want to add to stage. There we go. All right, let's see if I can fix that while we roll through here, because we got the double look going on. But let's jump over to how we got here. And as I fix this, I'm going to go full screen here. TJ, let's start with you. The overall bracket, this is how it looked. Obviously, we are now at the very end, but quick, brief thoughts on how we got here and if you thought this may have been how it was going to play out, or if you thought it may have happened a little different.
Well, if you look back at the history of the NFL as far as the first rounds of the playoffs are concerned, you don't see a lot of close games. You see a lot of blowouts. You see a lot of big wins. And I don't even necessarily want to call them blowouts. You see 10, 15, 20-point wins by some of the teams in the first round of the NFL playoffs. So the people that were complaining about the college football playoff being nothing but blowouts and this team should have been in or that team should have been in, not really. I mean, that's par for the course for most playoff first rounds is you're going to get those lopsided matchups. That's what's going to happen. I mean, the adding of teams to the college football playoff was to add access to teams who deserve to be in there, who are good enough to be in there, but they ran up against a team who is significantly better. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But I think the backlash that it got at first started to calm down when the SEC teams all started getting hammered. And everybody started to realize, oh, look, Alabama lost to Michigan. Oh, look, South Carolina lost. I mean, it's stupid to hear people complain. We wanted this expanded bracket for a long time. We got it, and now people are complaining. I love it. I think it's great. There's a few tweaks that can be made, but I think it's great.
Ooh, that's a good point. We're going to get to that. Mike, did you kind of think this is how it would play out, or did you have two different teams in the final here?
I thought Oregon maybe was going to make it to the final. I didn't think the such a long layover was going to affect them that much. But I think they got it pretty much right for the two teams that should be there. I think we're looking at probably two of the better teams. I think the only problem with the bracket is I don't think there's 12 solid teams in college football right now. There's not enough parity.
Do you think there's ever 12 solid enough teams to be really a toss-up for a national title?
I don't think yet. I think they're going to get there. They're going more to an NFL model. So once you start seeing the restrictions for NIL and transfer portal coming in, then I think the playoff brackets will be a lot more competitive. But this is about right for who should be there.
I know Rodney thinks Ohio State was going to be there. Did you think Notre Dame would be the team from the other side of the bracket?
I kind of thought they did. I figured it'd be them or Georgia. I thought that whoever won that would probably handle Penn State just because some of the limitations they have at wide receiver and always inconsistencies. But Notre Dame, the only thing that surprised me is how well that Leonard's thrown the ball. I think that's got them there. I think that was kind of my only drawback on them, if they can move the ball well enough. And the rest of the bracket played out, I think, how most people expected. I don't think it was a March Madness bracket busted kind of thing. This is probably what most people were at least close to. And like they said, I think, the parity, I think Mike's right about that. I think we're probably a little bit away from it. It's tough when you move to 12 and you get some of these teams that aren't ready to quite make that jump yet. But I think overall this is probably about how people expected to play out.
Matt, what about you? I know you got to take in that Texas game in person. Did you think they may have a chance to end up in the end, or you expect? I guess you did pick Ohio State to win. Technically, we're going back to last week, but when this started, what did you think?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, when I was there, I did pick Ohio State, and I thought they would, but I thought Texas would keep it close. And to be honest, despite the final score, I think Texas kept it close the whole time. But the atmosphere there, you had a real sense of it being, in Texas, a lot of burnt orange around, and there was just a real buzz around the whole experience of it being a semifinal game, and getting to take it all in. I honestly, I wouldn't have cared what teams were in there. It was just a cool experience, and you could really feel it among the fans and everything. And I think that really speaks to the playoff and what it's done. It's kept people's interest, way beyond maybe than what people had originally thought. I think the people's interest in college football is just at an all-time high now. And to Mike's point, I don't think we're at the 12, best teams quite yet. But now that we've seen it, this is what teams are going to be aiming for now. So now they're going to reset they're going to calibrate, what it means to get to the playoff and know that there's 12 spots or 14 here, maybe soon, as well. So the bracket is a great, it's a great thing. I think it's good for college football, and I like seeing both teams in there, seeing Ohio State, in person. I was hoping to see a little more Jeremiah Smith, but of course Texas's secondary defense really, really shut them down. But Ohio State's defense was spectacular that day as well. It's just a great thing to see. Like TJ said, we've been waiting for it for a long time to have more teams in a playoff type scenario, and I think we got it. And it's going to be good going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Dominic, I'm going to save this good question for last because I thought somebody might mention it, but nobody did. The top 4 seeds, none of them were left when we got to the Final Four. Thoughts on that, aspect of it, and maybe who you thought might be here in the end when we started this whole thing?
Well, at the end, I actually thought Oregon would have been there against Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I think, has just been playing on another level compared to what they've done in years past. And Oregon just felt like the stronger team heading into the playoffs. Tough to say. I like what they've done, despite the knee-jerk gut reactions that some have had with the lopsided scores in that first round. I think that the committee got it right, and they allowed the games to play out on the field, which is where it's important,
Yeah. Okay. So that leads me to my next thing. I think it was TJ that brought it up first. If there is one change, and again, I told you guys this before in the chat before we went live here. There are really no rules. It can only be one change, though. You can go back to 4. You can go BCS to get the 12 seeds. You can do all kinds of different things. But I want to hear one change that you guys think would make the playoff better. Again, doesn't have to stay 12. But TJ, what are your thoughts on one thing you could change to make this better?
Well, I don't want to change the number because my change that I want to make would affect no matter if it's 12 or 16 teams. I would prefer 16 teams, but my change I would make is reseeding after each round. Yeah, Ohio State destroyed Oregon. The better team won that game. I'm not arguing that at all. But there's no reason that the 1 seed should have to play a higher ranked team. There's no way that it should be like that. I get people complaining about the conference champions who are getting the buys and didn't really deserve the buys, but I more so am concerned about the reseeding. I think the best teams should play the lowest seeded teams.
I agree with that one. So I like that one to start off with. Mike, one change to make the CFP better.
I would go back to 8. I think 8 teams would make it more competitive. You don't need the group of 5 team in there. Take the 4 conference champion for our large bids and just go with that for right now until you can sort out NIL and the transfer portal. 12 is just too many at this point. I don't need to see some of these other games.
Some of these first round matchups, you pass on those ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't hate on that opinion because it's literally what played out, right? We didn't have a real close first round game. The closest was Clemson, Texas. But yeah, I mean, we saved all the better games as we moved along, which is also kind of what the point of a playoff is. Rodney, what is one change you would make to make the CFP better moving forward?
One that I don't think I would make, but I thought about, and I just want to mention it, is I'd like the playoff games all on Friday and Saturdays. I hate the title game being on a Monday and some of the weird scheduling stuff, but the one change I would probably make is I want home field in the second round too. I don't like it being in the first round. You had it with the semifinal. You rotated 4 out of the 6 New Year's 6 bowl games. That's fine, but Oregon gets a 1 seed and they get a bye, and then they have to play Ohio State at a neutral site. Arizona State, if that was a home game, that would have been insane if Texas had to go there. So I think reward some of these teams with an actual home game at their place.
I like that one too. I think that's the difference of what a college football playoff is compared, like Mike said, we're moving to an NFL style playoff system, but you're taking away the heart of college football when you take these games away from the home fans. So yeah, I really like that one there. Matt, what are we looking at for one change to make the CFP better moving forward?
Yeah, I think my change would be not tying the first round buys to a certain conference winner or that sort of thing would be my biggest change. I think it kind of goes along with TJ's reseeding, a tournament, so that way you have the lower seeds playing the higher seeds. But yeah, I think the top 4 teams, top 4 ranked teams, regardless of conference, should be the 4 teams to get the bye. That would be my change.
Nice. I look at a lot of solid opinions. It's almost like we're better than the committee that put this damn thing together. Dominick, we're going to finish up with you once again. One change to make this thing better moving forward.
Gosh, I like the 12 teams. I think I think that works. So I think my suggestion and my change would be while it hasn't been perfect, make this perfect and make it work with 12 teams, because now you've got the season essentially ending January 20th, and it's starting to creep into the next semester, the transfer portal even more. And even for some of these seniors and guys going into the NFL, it's cutting into their times to shine at some of these all-star games and even just train for the draft and the combine and everything. So I think it's good where it is, but maybe tweak it to where it doesn't end as late in the year.
I like that one, actually. That is one that was brought up on XM radio this morning by, what's the guy that does the full ride?
Chris Childers.
And what's the coach's name?
Rick Neuheisel.
Rick Neuheisel. There we go. Sorry, I went totally blank on Rick's name, and I listen to him like every day. But yeah, he was the one that brought that up. He said, honestly, what he'd like to see is start the week of the Army-Navy game. He says, yes, I know people aren't going to like that. We need to keep Army-Navy separate. He said, what the only solution he would see there is to give them their own time slot where none of these games are being played at the same time. But it does make sense, and it goes towards Dominick's point there about getting it so late into the season or extending the season and getting into that transfer portal window and some of those all-star things and draft prep.
Or start the week zero. Back to start up to week 0 then.
Mm-hmm.
True. Yep. That could be another fix as well. So we'll get into
kids
this.
Are already
game.
on campus. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Dominic, but those kids are already on campus. There's no reason they can't back that up a little bit of time. I mean, if you're extending it, like Dominic said, you're hitting that, especially with the new transfer portal window that's coming up that the coaches have voted on and they're going to try to get past. If that's the first week in January, you're going to have people who are playing bowl games on New Year's Eve and then hitting the portal before they even go on to the next round.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm wondering what day and age we will see a person transfer from one school to the next, like during the season, and they're going to let it get out of hand. I hope it never happens, but we'll see, because it just seems like that it's going to slowly leak into that. Like, well, you can't prevent them from moving when they want, It's like, all right. But going back specifically to this game Monday night, we're going to take a little bit of a look at Ohio State's offense versus Notre Dame's defense here first. And we'll start on the offensive side of the ball with Ohio State. There are a number of other players. I tried to pick kind of the leader in the clubhouse as far as quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. But as we know, Ohio State has a two-headed monster at the running back position. I'm going to start with Rodney here because he's kind of the resident expert when it comes to Ohio State. What do you think that two-man running back tandem can do against this Notre Dame defense?
I think it could do a lot depending just how the passing game gets going. I think we've seen that since the playoff started, that they want to spread it out a little bit more early. But Penn State has success with both their backs against Notre Dame. They ran a lot of wide zone and were able to stretch them out, cut back up field, and gash them a little bit. I think they scored 3 touchdowns in the red zone just off wide zone or stretch plays. And Ohio State kind of did that early in the year, and they switched from it. So schematically, it could look a little bit different, but both backs, Ohio State played really slow this year. They didn't try and really go tempo. They were methodical, didn't have a lot of total plays per game, and that was definitely on purpose. They want to keep everybody fresh. Travion and Judkins are both as fresh as a running back in January is probably ever going to get. So if they get the opportunities off those passing concepts to open up the box a little bit, I think they both go for 50+, have some touchdowns, and just maybe open up the pass game a little bit more and go back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I'm looking closely enough here, Henderson and Judkins are separated by a big old 7 yards total. So you have the two leading rushers on the team, almost both closing in on 1,000 yards apiece, which is insane. 10 touchdowns for Henderson, 12 for Judkins. I mean, just ridiculous tandem that they are blessed with there in the Ohio State backfield. Does anyone want to specifically talk about Will Howard and what he can bring to the offensive side of the ball for Ohio State in this one?
Well, I could tell you from watching them last week at the Texas game, it was really interesting on the offensive side. I came into that game expecting some fireworks with Jeremiah Smith, and the wide receivers, and then as Texas showed that they were going to take those receivers out with Smith and number 2, I can't remember his name now, but they for the first half, but then to see them turn to the backs in the passing game instead, because they didn't get a whole lot of running going either in against Texas's defense, because it's a very stout line. But the screen pass that went for 70 some yards for the touchdown that put Ohio State pretty much up in the game, it was just it was a screen pass to Henderson, and he scampered on down and scored that touchdown to help Ohio State. But then the other receivers had stepped up, like number 17.
Number 2 is Emeka Egbuka.
Emeka Egbuka, and then and Tate, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I hadn't, when I was doing research before the game, I hadn't really seen his name, and then all of a sudden, at the game, you just kept hearing his name because he was catching balls everywhere, because Texas was shutting everybody else down. But Will Howard, he played well. Texas had a lot of pressure on him. He certainly wasn't comfortable in that game at all. And but the interesting to me, the really interesting thing to see was that how they were able to, even though Texas drug them down to where they were, kind of in the mud, which is what I think Notre Dame is going to try to do too. But they were able to get the big plays when they need them. They didn't have as many big plays, but they did get the big plays when they need them. And especially even on the defensive side with Captain Jack Sawyer there returning that fumble, that was only one play, but it, sealed the game. But that screen pass as well, it was the one play they needed at the time, because Texas had just scored, and then all of a sudden Will Howard throws a perfect screen. You could see it up in the press box. The line was just the 4 linemen just ready for a convoy, and Henderson, there was nobody there. It was crazy how wide open he was, and just he went untouched all the way down the field. And then right there, those big plays, like I said, you were expecting more of them, but they hit them when they needed to. So I think that's what the offense showed, that they could not only put up a lot of points like they have, but they could also win, a 24-14 game like they did.
Absolutely.
I think the key for Howard too is not to turn the ball over. Notre Dame ranks 5th in takeaways. I think they average 2 takeaways, or just over 2 takeaways a game. The only game I believe Notre Dame lost was the only game they didn't have any takeaways. They depend a lot on getting the ball and having it in ideal field position for how they want to run the offense, with a more rushing than a passing attack. If Howard can protect the ball and keep the turnovers hopefully to none, then Ohio State, I think, they're gonna run away with this game.
BC Georgia Tech Jackets has an opinion on this one, saying, I think Notre Dame will win this one. Dominic, thoughts on the Ohio State offense versus that Notre Dame defense? And I've got the Notre Dame defense over here too that we can bring up here while we talk about that as well.
I mean, I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think Notre Dame's defense, especially their pass defense, has been underrated. I mean, you got Xavier Watts in the backfield for Notre Dame, who's just been everywhere. I think I saw him selling popcorn at halftime of one of the games too, but I'm not sure on that one. You're not going to totally eliminate the playmakers for Ohio State, but if you can minimize their gains and tackle them quickly, not allowing that yard after the catch, it's going to be a closer game than I think people are going to expect.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad statement there, because we've seen a couple of games that have gone under the score. Although I don't know, the Vegas bettors know what they're doing, right? These guys have been doing it for a long time, so they're pretty smart on these over-unders. So be careful when you are betting that. We'll talk about some of that stuff moving forward. Does anybody have any other specific thoughts here on this Notre Dame defensive front and linebacking core, and even the secondary, as you see Schuler there with 3 interceptions, forced fumble, Leonard Moore forcing some of those in the backfield as well, 2 interceptions, 10 passes deflected or defended, I should say. But yeah, I mean, these guys are just all over the field and causing havoc throughout this college football playoff so far. But this is going to be their toughest test, I'd say. TJ, thoughts?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Dom.
No, I was going to say, if I'm Al Golden, I'm looking at using Jack Kaiser and Leonard Moore to stop the run or to minimize the run and hopefully generate the pass rush with that defensive front that they have. And then have Xavier Watts just run the secondary and help out either against Jeremiah or I'm going to butcher that other receiver's last name, Mecca. Yeah. But I'd look to see that happen a lot in this game.
Nice. Yeah. And that Riley Mills loss is definitely going to be a big one there for sure. Rodney, you want to speak on that and maybe how it affects some of that game planning?
Yeah, the thing about Notre Dame this year is they've lost a lot of guys, and it seems like it's the definition of next man up. They have another one ready at all times. I don't know how Freeman's preparing them, but whatever he's doing some wizardry back there. They have O-line injuries like Ohio State has. They had a guy out before the year. They lose their best corner preseason, and they're still playing over half their snaps in man coverage and still being one of the best defensive backfields in the country. So if they had a couple more guys, they'd definitely be in a better spot. But at this point in the year, everybody's kind of got that. It just seems they got theirs earlier and then handled it. And they've gotten a couple recently, even in the Penn State game, and they handled it and kept running the ball down their throat when they lost a couple linemen. So I think I trust Freeman and that staff just to whoever it is, they have them ready.
Yeah, absolutely. Mills led the team in sacks with 7.5 too, and the next closest was just 4.5 sacks. So that tells you how big of a loss that man is for this one. Any last words or thoughts from anybody on the Ohio State offense versus the Notre Dame defense?
The only thing that I would say about that is if Notre Dame's defense has, and I can't even call it a weakness, I'll say more of a question mark, it's their rush defense. Their rush defense was 41st in the country. It gives up 133 yards a game. Ohio State has a decent run game. I mean, Rodney already said it. You got Quinshawn, you got Trevion. I mean, that is a solid-ass running tandem right there. I don't know if Notre Dame's defense can stop the pass game and stop those 2 running backs. I really don't know if they're going to have enough to do that, because you have to pick your poison. You got to stop that pass or you got to stop that run. Notre Dame's really, really good in the pass defense. So that means you load up with Quinshawn, you load up with Trevion, and you roll the dice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think let's jump over that. So we'll go straight from Notre Dame's defense to Notre Dame's offense and talk about what they could present Ohio State. But like DJ just mentioned, Ohio State kind of 2-headed or 3-headed monster, depending if you look at the quarterback, the 2 running backs, and the wide receiver, Smith there leading the way. Notre Dame definitely a little bit more one-dimensional. Dominick, we'll start with you because you're probably the most familiar with Notre Dame. As they're not an official ACC member, but they go head-to-head with so many ACC opponents throughout the year. So what do you think is going to be the tactic that best serves Notre Dame in this game against that great Ohio State defense?
I honestly would love to see them be more balanced. They've been that run-first defense, or offense rather, throughout the year, and it's worked for them. I mean, they've won, 13 in a row now? And like I said, it's worked for them, but you got to keep people guessing and keep people honest. You can't afford to, especially against Ohio State on arguably the biggest stage, to have them crowd the box and defend the run. for 60 minutes because you're not going to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely. BC. I'm just going to call BC for short because I don't want to read the name every time. O-line is going to have to step up for Notre Dame to try and get their run going against arguably the best D-line in the country. Absolutely. And Matt, let's go with you next. We'll kind of go our way up. We'll work our way up. Oh, I think we lost your mic again, Matt. Rodney, you want to jump in while he fixes that up?
Yeah, so I've watched a lot of Notre Dame. My weekly game prep ritual is take 2 or 3 days after the last game and then watch as much as my eyes can stay open. And when you watch Notre Dame offense, you see 13 run. You see them take off every time they're in empty. And that's just what they do. And Penn State did a pretty okay job in those situations, but they kind of sat back on it too much and let them get downhill. Ohio State will not do that. Both safeties and the nickel safety hybrid, Jordan Hancock, they'll get downhill faster than anybody, and the corners. So Leonard's going to have to make a couple throws. And against Penn State, he made a couple. He had a couple nice ones outside the boundary, found a tight end on a little rub wheel. So he's capable, but he's going to have to prove he's capable because Ohio State isn't going to get ran on. If you're in empty or you're in a 3rd or 4th and 2, Knowles and all 11 guys in that defense know, hey, 13 might be taken off here. There's going to be bodies. And then offensively, I do think for Notre Dame that Love, his health is going to be important. But I think you saw both other backs step up in the last game. I think Jadarian Price and I think 20 is Anais Williams maybe.
Yep.
Had a couple nice catches. I think they're versatile. And you saw Ohio State get beat twice against Texas. Noel said after the game, that was me getting in my own head and being a little bit too aggressive. There's a lot of college defenses that drive me nuts that won't cover running backs out of the backfield. And Knowles is not the only one doing it. So I think Sonny Styles is probably going to be caught in that situation if Notre Dame goes big with their 12 personnel, which even some of their tight ends or receivers rather, 83 will motion in and block. All their receivers block. So you can see a little bit more Arvell Reese, our 3rd linebacker rotating in. Up front in those trenches is going to be most important, but Leonard can still move the ball downfield. I don't think people give him quite enough credit.
Absolutely. Mike, thoughts on that Notre Dame offensive front versus that Ohio State D?
They're going to have to find a way to get Leonard time to throw the ball. Knowles has been very aggressive the last few weeks. Well, since the Michigan game, his aggressiveness has gone up. And Leonard's going to have to pass the ball. Ohio State's going to load the box. They're going to have 8-9 guys. They know what Notre Dame wants to do. Notre Dame ranks 101st in passing yards this year. They want to run the ball. Leonard wants to take off, and Ohio State's not going to give them that. They're going to have to find a way somehow to get 1 or 2 of the receivers in this game to at least make Ohio State secondary and linebackers play back a little bit. Because if you got 8-9 guys in the box, I don't care what team you are, no one's running against you.
Yeah. TJ?
This was one of the things that I'm an offensive guy. I love to see offense. To me, I'd much rather see a 41-38 game than that boring ass LSU Alabama field goal fest any day. But this game's going to be defense. This game is 100% going to be defense. I mean, you look at Ohio State's defense, number 1 in scoring defense, number 1 in total defense, number 1 in passing defense, number 3 in rushing defense, number 2 in red zone defense, 3rd in the country in sacks. Notre Dame is one-dimensional on offense. Their passing game is not good. Their passing game is really not good. If Notre Dame gets down 10 points, I think it's over. Honestly, I think it's over. They're not built to come back like that, and Ohio State will run the ball. They're not afraid to run it. They know that Notre Dame's defense is tough against the run, they're not afraid to run the ball because they know their defense has their back. If they get a 3 and out, they know their defense can go and get that ball right back. And with, like Mike said, 102nd for Notre Dame's passing game, that's not good against Ohio State. That's not good at all because they could load up 7 or 8 in the box and leave those wide receivers one-on-one with their corners and know that their corners have the advantage. That's a tough recipe for Notre Dame to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just when I was putting this graphic together here, I'm like, which top 3 guys do I pick, right? I could have had a handful of guys and still had one or two that probably could have snuck in there with their stat line or just how great they're playing as of right now. But yeah, just phenomenal stuff. And just getting to the ball quickly and effectively and efficiently. And it's going to be a tough test for Notre Dame. And we have one other guy who's got some expertise that we want to add in here too. And I'm going to give this better layout as we bring in Steve. You're not
fellas?
Surprising us and ending up in Atlanta, are you?
No, not happening. I don't think. Yeah. If it happens last second, why not? But
there you go.
As of right now, I'll be watching on TV.
All right, you're playing the Powerball, hoping for a big victory here before you go down. Take that one in.
I'm gonna have to win the Powerball to get tickets, man.
I know, right? It's insanity. But so you're jumping in here. You're another expert, just like Rodney on Ohio State specifically. Give us an overview on what your thoughts are on each side of the ball and what they can do versus Notre Dame, or what problems Notre Dame could present them in this one.
Notre Dame's a king of takeaways, man. They're just the right place at the right time. When they really need a turnover, they get a turnover. If they need to win a game, they're going to get that ball like against USC and take it 99 yards 2 times back to back. I mean, when they need it, they're going to get it. And it's one of those ball hawking defenses. They have that it factor. Like, they're down, their backs are against the wall, turnover, win the game. And Ohio State's defense has been the same way. When they really needed it, they get that ball. I mean, at least the last game, obviously, the 83 yards through the heart of Texas.
Yeah, that was quite the dagger to end it there in that one.
It was the slowest. Can you hear me now? It was.
Yeah, we got you, Matt.
It was the in person. It was the slowest interception or return I have ever seen. I couldn't believe how long it took him to get down the sideline, and then he was looking around like is somebody going to tackle me? I'm tired.
His dad was saying that. I listened to his dad on a podcast today, and he was like, "Dude, stop looking around. Just run. Don't look around until you're in the end zone."
Oh man, you gotta love it.
It was slow motion.
Like, how they have the time lapse for the 40-yard dash on the combine? Do we need Sawyer's run with the Leon Cowboy run in the snow game?
In the snow game.
Usain Bolt next to him.
Or the Rich Eisen tape.
That might be the best one right there. Rich Eisen versus Sawyer. Oh man. Trev Grizz sharing a comment here. Notre Dame was down 10 to Penn State. That worked out just fine.
Penn State ain't Ohio State, Trev. I know that's your team, but that ain't happening.
That was my gut reaction to that, TJ.
Yeah, that is
completely different teams.
This Ohio State team isn't the team it was during the season either. That's the biggest difference. A lot of people go back, they harken back to the Michigan game. They weren't running the same offense even. I mean, this team drastically changed after that Michigan game, and it's because they had to. It's because that's what.
And the only way that I see Notre Dame even having a chance with this game is if Michigan game Ohio State shows up. I mean, that's the only way I see it. If Tennessee / Oregon / Texas Ohio State shows up, sorry, it's a walk.
And to me, that's what's interesting defensively for Notre Dame. Are they going to go man-to-man? Are they going to take Texas's approach? I mean, they like you said earlier, Rodney, they go man-to-man more than 50% of their snaps. So are they going to do that against this offense, against these wide receivers?
They'll have to try to disguise it, but You know it's coming. They don't stop. Even when they roll 2 high safeties, one up, ups, down. And even they run a lot of cover 3, but cover 3 now, you can't run spot drop zones. You're going to lock that backside corner one-on-one with someone. So they're going to be in it, but they're going to have
to pick and choose their battles when they get in it. I don't, it doesn't make any sense for me for them to do it as much as they normally do. I think they're going to do it because that's who they are. But I think they're going to have to drop back into zone and play a little shell defense.
I don't know that Notre Dame's. I do think Notre Dame's defense will be good. I mean, they're giving up only 14.3 points per game themselves, so they're high up there as well. And they've got some dudes on defense who fly around, but I don't know that they've faced receivers like what they're going to face with Ohio State's defense. I mean, it's pretty easy for Penn State to not throw to any wide. They didn't even throw their wide receiver, so Notre Dame didn't even have to deal with that sort of thing. So
they did. They did face wide receivers like that.
The biggest,
it was against USC, and there was 360 yards passing and 35 points.
The biggest difference between Ohio State when they played Michigan and now is their offensive line. They had that 3 weeks off to fix it. Yeah. Michigan did what Michigan did because they rushed 4 and only had 2 linebackers up on the line and dropped everybody else back. And Ohio State wasn't able to run the ball, and Michigan got pressure with 4 guys. Since then, has anybody even touched Will Howard? No. I think they went 2 games with no one touching him.
Texas got after him pretty good. Yeah, Texas got after him pretty good.
Yeah, the thing I read was Tennessee and Oregon had 0 sacks against Ohio State.
Correct. Yeah. And Texas had 1 or 2.
Because the narrative that Ohio State didn't throw the ball against Michigan is false.
They just threw it situationally very badly. They did not.
It's because Will Howard didn't have time to throw the ball.
Yeah, when they went,
he had to throw it fast.
You'd get heat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get to some of the comments here. So this is a good one. 7:30 Monday, ESPN. We've got number 8 versus number 7 for the championship. W. Smith almost said Will Smith. What if it comes down to a field goal game? I don't want anybody to answer just yet. Terry thinks it's going to be possibly a low-scoring affair. BC thinks if it's close game in the fourth quarter, then Notre Dame will have it in the bag. And Terry says, either way, can we all be happy? There is no SEC team in the Natty for back-to-back years. And maybe we can get into that. So there it is, Monday, 7:30. I don't think anyone's going to miss this one. I don't even think anybody needs a real reminder. But there it is, if you do. Let's get into some of those comments in an indirect way by looking at some of the predictions. And as you can see on screen here, went across the board probably about 2 hours before this show went live. So the betting lines could have changed, probably not drastically. It's a clean sweep. Ohio State is favored by every Vegas outlet here shown on screen, and they're either favored by 8 or 8.5 points. Let's start with what we got at the bottom with Matt there and work our way up. Do you think they cover? Give me a score prediction, how you think it's going to play out specifically, anything you want there.
Yeah, I think, last week I was wrong on the Texas being within the 5.5. When I first heard driving home the next day after the Cotton Bowl, and I heard it opened at 9, Ohio State was favored. I thought that was a lot, but as you look at it a little bit more, I think I've seen, 8.5 mostly, but yeah, right in that 8.2 range. I think Ohio State will cover that. I think they'll win. You got the over under at 46.5 last I saw. I thought last week, it was a 53.5, and I thought they'd clear that easily. But here, I think I'd take the under as well, but I think Ohio State covers.
Nice. Let's see who's next up there. Dominic?
No, I mean, like Matt said, I think it's high on the line, but you got Notre Dame, who's 12-3 against the spread this season, and 2-0 as the underdog against the spread. So I think it plays into the narrative that it's going to be a lot closer I'll probably be the outlier, but I'll go Notre Dame by 3 in the game.
Ooh. So you think that field goal game that who was it that had that question? W. Smith had that a field goal game does favor Notre Dame, but barely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Rodney, I know you're not going to agree with that one, so give us your prediction.
I try to be unbiased, but sometimes I'm like, I don't know how much my judgment is clouded.
Right.
But so far this year, I've been pretty right. Last week, I thought it'd be a little bit of a dogfight more than people thought, and it was until Quinn Ewers got blindsided. This week, I think 8.5 is kind of high. It's tough to beat a team by more than a touchdown in any situation, especially neutral field national title game. But my gut wants to say Ohio State by 8 in like a 28-20 game. Maybe Notre Dame doesn't settle for field goals. I think they might have a feeling, but if they can play field position and time of possession game, then they'll probably be content to do that with some short ones, especially because I don't think Ohio State is going to give up too many red zone points. Notre Dame, when they get down, they're going to run the ball. They run the ball everywhere else because they have to. If they get inside the 10, it's going to be the same thing. So gut says something along the lines of 28-20 Ohio State.
Nice. I like that one. Solid. Mike, what do we got from you, man? I know you don't want to go Ohio State, but I'm going to see if you are going to.
Ohio State's
going
going to
to.
cover this all day long. If Ohio State gets over 18 points, they're going to win this game. It's going to be like the Texas. Notre Dame has to keep Ohio State under probably 15 points to win this game, and they're not going to do it. Ohio State's too strong. Their defense is too good. Their offense is outstanding. Jeremiah Smith, if you're going to play a man-to-man like Notre Dame wants, he's going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
He's unguardable as a true freshman. He should have been the true freshman of the year. I don't know how he wasn't, but it is what it is. They're too good.
Do you think that game against Michigan got them to this point? Had they not lost that and won that in a close game, do you think they get here in this game?
I don't know, because I told Steve before that even if Ohio State lost to Michigan, that they were going to win the national championship. And I've been on Ohio State since the beginning. And Ohio State's built for a dome. They're fast. It's perfect conditions. Like, there's not too many teams that are going to be able to hang with Ohio State. There's just not this year.
Yeah.
This team was built for this moment.
Yeah. TJ, thoughts here?
I agree with Mike. I think Ohio State's going to walk away with it. I got them winning 27-13. I don't think it's going to be as close as what some of you guys think. I think Ohio State's going to get out fast, bleed the clock. Maybe Notre Dame gets a late game touchdown to try to bring it a little bit close, but I'm looking at like a 27-13 game where Ohio State controls it from start to finish.
Nice. I know Steve likes to hear that. Steve, what are your thoughts on this one? Do they cover, and what do you think the outcome is?
This is the problem. I haven't been this confident since the Michigan game, and that doesn't speak well. So I'm going to go with 27-10, a lot like TJ. Ohio State controls it early. The only chances Notre Dame has is turnovers and Riley Leonard just going off, spreading the team out, like getting 5 wide and running the ball. Get those speedy defensive ends out, get the stud athletes out in space, and then run a quarterback power. That's how I defend it. And if they do that and get some turnovers, then they're in it a little closer.
Nice. I'll throw my prediction in before we move to this because I think this is an interesting aspect of this game that has nothing to do. Well, it does have something to do with on the field stuff, but it probably doesn't matter what the outcome is for some of that. I put a little money down on Notre Dame before this whole thing started. I don't know why. I just kind of felt like they could get here, and they have gotten here, so that's great. But I'd like some of those bets to come through a little bit. So I'm gonna favor Notre Dame, not because I think they'll actually win, because I hope they win for other reasons.
Did you put that down before the Northern Illinois game?
I did not. No, I should have put it down right after that.
Yes.
Because there was people that And I agreed. I honestly, once they lost that one, I said, there's no way they make the playoff. Zero chance. And I said they were out. And they have woken up and proven us all wrong. And so now we got these two guys. And I've got a question here. One and done. Steve, we'll go from top to bottom this time and see what your thoughts are, because you guys have obviously heard it all about Ryan Day, both good and bad, going into this postseason in general after the Michigan game. Now he's got to the national title. First of all, do you think he really needs to win it? And if he doesn't, do all those rumors and thoughts come back? Or do you think he's actually positioned well no matter what the outcome is here? And secondly, do you think that, he takes the trophy and runs? Do you think he takes a shot or a chance at the NFL, or does the NFL come calling to him?
Well, I mean, there's not a cheating scandal, so he sticks around. He keeps his trophy and he stays. So, his son's in high school. His son's in high school. I think he waits for his son to graduate before he even considers. And Ryan Day himself kind of galvanized his team. He knows what's expected. He's said it on air before. As a Buckeye coach, as someone around Columbus, the expectations are through the roof, and they're crazy through the roof. There's a fringe, a lunatic fringe, and you just got to embrace it. You're not going to last long as a head coach, like Urban Meyer said, but you got to embrace it while you're there. And he's embracing it. I think he wins this one, and he wants to win another.
Nice. I like it. TJ, like I said, we'll keep going down that way.
Now, as a college football fan, I hope they both stay. No matter who wins this game, I hope they both stay. Like Steve had said, Ryan Day has a very difficult job because of the fringe group of Ohio State fans, and I get that. But I think he likes being there. I think he wants to be there. I don't see him leaving. Marcus Freeman's done a hell of a job. He's done what Brian Kelly said couldn't be done at Notre Dame, and he did it within 3 years, and I love seeing that. The thing that I'm concerned with about trying to keep both of these coaches, you have the NIL, you have the transfer portal, and a lot of coaches are having a lot of trouble with that. You're going to start seeing a lot of these coaches leave for the NFL if the regulations don't come down to help these guys maintain rosters, keep players. If the coaches leave and they bounce out of there, yeah, let the kids go. But this wild, wild west nonsense is not sustainable. And you're going to lose coaches like Marcus Freeman and Ryan Day to the NFL because they don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah, no, and the collective's now being a part of that, right? Like they're having to deal with more money issues than the NFL leagues. And these guys are commanding more money at a younger age than some of these guys that are first or second year NFL players. Mike, what are your thoughts on that? And these two coaches specifically after this one finishes up?
I think they're both going to stay where they are. I hope Ryan Day stays where he is. I actually have a pen if he wants to sign a longer contract. I like beating Ryan Day every year. But for Day, you have to win this game. You have to. This team was put together to do three things: beat Michigan, win a Big Ten, and win the national championship. If you don't accomplish any of those three with this team, what's it going to take for him to win it? Like, this team was built for this moment. If he can't win this game, he should not be the Ohio State coach next year.
Wow.
You
So
can't.
you're the
can't
lunatic
spend $20
fan.
million to accomplish three things and accomplish none of them.
That's what they didn't tell you about the lunatic fringe. It's all in Michigan.
Hey, listen, I said last year if Harbaugh didn't win it, he should be fired. And I'll say this year about Day.
Mm-hmm. I think he's earned his paycheck. He's not going anywhere after those 3 wins.
Oh, I don't think he is, but you can't. To me, if Ohio State doesn't win at least the national championship, this season is not only disappointing, it's embarrassing.
Wow. And that's coming from a Michigan fan, folks. So there you go.
I don't know if I'd go so far as embarrassing. I mean, you made it to the title game. You lost to your rival. But
what did you win? What trophy did you put in the trophy case?
There's discussions. Well, all those bowl trophies that
That's a damn good point, Mike.
No, this year. What
Spent
trophy?
that much money on that roster to win
The
3
Rose
things,
Bowl
and
trophy,
you
the
don't
Cotton
win
Bowl
any of them.
trophy.
Yeah.
You know what those trophies mean? Nothing. Those trophies mean nothing. What matters is beating
They still
Michigan,
look pretty.
winning the Big Ten, and winning a national championship. That's it.
That's true.
They
I mean,
glitter.
And if they win
But
it,
yes,
not even beating Michigan matters anymore.
here's an aspect that I'll go into Rodney with. You know, I typically cover the Sun Belt. We just had a coach win a conference championship in Charles Huff at Marshall, and then take him and most of his roster down to Southern Miss. You know, if you're an average college football fan, maybe you don't know much about that, but it was a big deal because what had happened the year before, some of the same stuff that's happened with Ryan Day at Ohio State. He heard the rumor. He heard what the fans were saying about him, his staff, his players, and he took it and he said, it's us against the world. Literally, we're going to stay together as a team. Has Ryan Day kind of done that too? Yeah, to some extent, right? He's turned this thing around after what people thought was going to be the end of that Michigan loss, and they weren't going to, you know, maybe go that far in the CFP or something. Obviously, they really turned that around. But that's where I wonder if this could take the next step where he says, you know, I'm tired of this. It's actually easier at the next level in the NFL, right? I have other people in spots and jobs that exist there that don't exist at the college realm, and I can deal with all this a whole lot easier. And, you know, Rodney's wearing that Browns hat. I don't know if they're looking for a new head in 1 to 2 years, as it seems. But, Rodney, I mean, what if any aspect does that, like the fan base being heard in the background by him and his family around that Columbus area, you know, do? There it is, DJ. What does it do? Does it play into an effect of what happens after this?
I think it has played into effect and always does. I think being under Urban before this, there's nobody outside of like a Woody Hayes, I guess, that understands being an Ohio State head coach like Urban Meyer. Urban drives me crazy as a person and as a coach, but everything was understood. And I think Day understood it, and being a first-time head coach in the spot that he's in with the pressure is insane. I don't think people talk about that or think about that enough. You follow Urban Meyer, who followed Jim Tressel, and you're expected to beat Michigan every year. You're expected to be competing for titles every year. And he hasn't handled it great because he was 4 straight, but you played Georgia. You played in a natty against Alabama where you ran into Devontae Smith, who killed you. And now you're playing another one. So I think overall he's handled it well. And I think the head coaching leaving thing, I don't think Freeman does, especially because it's so early. But also, I think both coaches like coaching college kids. I don't think it's at the point where you're quite burned out yet. I think you get like the one I always talk about is Jeff Hafley, the DC for Green Bay now. He was talking about when he left Boston College, his first presser with Green Bay was talking about how much he missed watching film. You have so much left to do, just outside of recruiting and stuff. But the NIL at programs like Ohio State and Notre Dame, they don't handle themselves, but everybody knows what you are. You can put groups in place like they have to kind of take some of that load off. And then Ryan Day leaving, I don't think that happens at all until his kid's out of school. He's maybe the biggest family dude in the state, and his kid's still young. His kid's playing high school football. I don't think he wants to uproot him. If he got ran out of the state, obviously would have figured out if they crapped their pants against Tennessee and everything went to fire. But right now, what he's done warrants him at least another year. I think he's proven that he deserves another year, and probably a little bit past that, barring 5 or 6 straight losses to that team. But
Yeah.
we'll cross that bridge next November when I'm pulling my hair out in my basement watching it. But yeah, I think they both end up staying. I think they both really like being college coaches, and maybe one day they make that jump. But I think you haven't seen too many people try to make that jump as of late.
Nice. Dominic,
And one thing,
thoughts?
just to piggyback on that, I'm sorry to interrupt. The most surprising thing to me is both of these coaches are at blue blood schools, and this is their first head coaching job.
Mm-hmm.
So that blew me away when I saw that, when I remembered about that. But I don't think either one of them are leaving. I'm hoping they don't leave, but like Rodney said, I mean, I don't see them going.
Yeah, I know that one big thing about that NFL is a lot of coaching contracts aren't necessarily fully disclosed, so you don't know what kind of money could be thrown their way, which could sway them for a sole reason. Dominic, do you think either one of these guys take a chance and money's just too good, the offer's just too good to stick around, or do you think they both stay as well?
I think at the end of it all, they both stay. I mean, I know we've heard Marcus Freeman's name get tossed around with the Bears, but they have their niche, and they both enjoy what they're doing, coaching at the college ranks right now. And we talk about money coming in. Notre Dame just literally got, what is it, $20 million for reaching the national title game. They're doing all right, and Marcus Freeman is their guy, and he's proved it and gotten them to this spot with one game left for the national title. So I think they both stay for now.
Nice. I want it for college football. Matt, what are your thoughts on, these guys sticking around or leaving? I don't think both leave. Does anyone think both leave before I let Matt go? No. Okay. I didn't think so.
No, I do think that both of them stay. I know Freeman was a former Chicago Bears linebacker. But we don't like to bring back our own players, apparently, and let them have success like Jim Harbaugh. But, that's a whole other story. But no, I think it's good for college football that they both stay. I think if one of the two would jump, I think it'd be Freeman first, to be honest. I think Day will kind of be there until they don't want him there anymore. However long that is, however long your fickle fan base will keep him. I think he'll be there till they don't want him anymore. But I could see Freeman, not yet, but he's certainly opening some eyes to what he can do, because Notre Dame is such a different, situation than most colleges, being their own kind of entity and everything. So, and the turnaround he's been able to do there is amazing in just 3 years from where they were and taking them to the top. So I think he'd be the one if either of them. If you held a water gun to my head, I would say Freeman would be the one to go, but it'd be a little while.
Interesting. All right.
Didn't Freeman play college at Ohio State too?
Yeah.
Yep. Ohio State.
How funny would it be if Day's the one that leaves and then Freeman gets offered the Ohio State job?
He absolutely
sliding doors.
As long as he keeps Chip Kelly.
I was like, Laurinaitis was on Freeman's staff, I think, his first year at Notre Dame before Ohio State. The coach went back. So I was like, they all that group probably. AJ Hawk and Bobby Carpenter are still around all the time. I think they always pitching in bowl practices. Like a lot of former players still want to be involved.
Yeah,
that's awesome to hear. You always hear that about Miami and Miami's players. I never knew that about Ohio State's players coming back like that. That's really awesome to hear.
That's how they got Heartline. Heartline kept going back for bowl practices to run a scout team, and Urban Meyer harassed him for like 2 or 3 years, and he finally broke down, took the job.
Oh man, yeah. This has been phenomenal, fellas. I mean, technically, that's all I had to cover. It's only one game. We stretched it to right at an hour, just over an hour. So anyone who needs to leave for other things, Buckeye Steve and the Buckeye Backers preview, which will be a separate show. So check that out from those guys. But yeah, this is kind of the free for all moment, guys. What anything you guys want to say? Last notes to mention here before. We have a couple days left. We see some NFL playoffs, but then we get to see this thing Monday night finally play out in its entirety. And the football season, the college football season anyway, will officially be over.
Yeah. The only thing I'll say is I agree with I forget who had mentioned it before. I wholeheartedly agree. This national championship game should not be on a Monday. It absolutely should not be on a Monday. I get they can't go up against the NFL. You can't piss off the Shield. I get all that. Well, then make it Friday. Make it Friday. Put it on the
Saturday's
Friday.
even fine. So I mean, Saturday just
like the division.
Saturday.
Yeah, it's like NFL plays afternoon. Make it a night game.
I can say going up.
What we're saying too about they extended the playoffs too long.
Yeah, Yeah, say
You have to
end of
make
January.
it more like actual game week breaks. You can't have teams sitting for 4 weeks and then one team sitting for 3 weeks. It needs to be a bye needs to be 1 week. Have teams play back to back. It has to feel like a regular, like they do in the regular season. You're not sitting there for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
This is too long, and 100% this should be on a Friday.
Yeah, you go to press conferences and you hear, Day and other coaches, it's a Friday, and they're like, this is our Wednesday, because they're trying to make it feel like a game week because you have to play on a Monday or a Wednesday because the Rose was to be played on New Year's Day. It just pushes things out of whack. You could fix it. It's an easy fix.
Yeah, very. If the right people are in charge.
That's the problem. That's the first problem,
That's
right?
the big problem overall.
Does Ohio State still have running back coach Tony Alford? I love.
No, he's at Michigan.
Yeah.
We got Carlos Lachlan, who I think has actually kind of gotten Henderson some juice back a little bit. So, thank you.
Yeah.
I think having Judkins in the backfield with Henderson got Henderson some juice back too.
Yeah, it's like he's probably got a lot of juice. When he doesn't have a broken foot like he apparently had a season ago, that helps when you're running 75 yards.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I just wanted to say real quick that it's been a fun year with you guys. I know I haven't appeared on a lot of podcasts and stuff, but I've worked with everybody here, and it's been a fun year. I'm sad to see it end, but we'll get started on a new year next year. But thanks for following us along, and yeah, it's just been a lot of fun, guys, and I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna take this
Mike.
time to congratulate Rodney and Buckeye Nation on their national championship.
I'm too superstitious for this stuff, man. Like I freak out about this. I didn't even want to make a prediction. I felt bad.
No, it's not. I don't even think it's gonna be close. This is gonna look like the Georgia TCU game. Maybe not as bad, but it's gonna look the same.
I'd love to not have to have a freak out moment this week.
Ohio State's going to be ordering hamburgers going into the fourth quarter. On the side.
You mean Chick-fil-A? It's Atlanta.
Yeah,
Atlanta.
And that's why they put it on a Monday so the Chick-fil-A can be open.
There you go.
That's a genius plan. I know. Yeah, that's a good point. That's why they did it.
Somebody's always thinking.
They are. The one thing I'll give Atlanta is the concession prices are good. They're affordable. It's like the only place in the nation where they're actually got a brain and saying, hey, you just paid hundreds of dollars for a ticket. Why don't we not charge you $10 for a soda? So I appreciate that. I've yet to take in a game there, but I do want to praise them for having, some common sense and allowing a family of 4 to eat a meal inside of a stadium because so many of those things cost $40 or $50 to feed 2 or 3 kids. It's just ridiculous. So, unless anybody has any last final notes on this one, I really appreciate all the time and effort you guys gave. Specifically, keep checking out collegefootballdawgs.com. There's already articles, specifically Matt, Rodney. Mike, you have one out for this?
No, I don't.
Dominic, you got one coming, right?
No, I'm working on draft prospect articles.
Okay. Well, I meant just in general, you had one coming. So, yeah.
We've got plenty coming. Yep.
Now,
yes.
Dominick Crosetto, thank you for doing this. You rock as a show host. We love being on shows with you. You know how to take control. You know how to do this. Phenomenal job by you, man.
Well, thank you. I like to give you guys an outlet because you do a tremendous job of writing about this stuff. People need to see and hear from you and your expertise as well, because like I said, I am not the expert on these teams. So thank you guys for all your time and effort. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to tune in Monday. And as always, follow along at collegefootballdawgs.com throughout the season and off season, because football never sleeps. We'll see you guys next time.